We are back in Studio B at the Beach Street Yacht Club in San Francisco's beautiful Marina District. Welcome to show number 727. Delighted to be back here with Julia as a lot of people are checking in. Clayton Embley, greetings from the Wheelhouse, presumably in Kentucky. Tier DeYoung in SoCal, Bob Walker in North Texas, Gordon Smith in Denmark, Alistair Murray. He's in Marseille, I guess, settling in for some great sailing action.
Good for him.
MJ Szymanski in Philly. Chris Exley, hello everyone from sunny, warm Salem, Mass. And who else, Julia? Fritz Mueller from Miami and many others. As we're getting back into the swing of things, I would have sung Back in the Saddle Again, but people would then know I'm a crouton. Blake Middleton saying hello from the land of 10,000 lakes. Julia, I trust you are well.
Oh, yes, and it's nice to have you back.
Well, thank you. It is nice to be back. It's so much easier, after producing all those shows.
Yeah.
10 shows in 6 days, and it seems like a piece of cake to do 2 shows in a week here. It's nothing. Plus, everything is set up. Everything works. They have all these monitors. You push a few buttons, and away we go. Welcome, everybody, to show number 727 for, it's bloody hell, already the 30th of July.
Off to a flying start.
The America's Cup starts in 3 weeks.
That's good.
The preliminary regatta. Ed Worley down in SoCal saying, hello, everyone. Great to be back with the Fozy, Christopher Gillingham and Jane in Leamington, Ted Ryman in Cape Town, saying the shows down at Balboa Yacht Club in SoCal were great. Clark Chapin, good day from Plymouth, Michigan, just back from the 38-boat Interlake Nationals, where my crew and I were the 2 oldest competitors, if not the fastest. Congrats to Stuart Fisher and his father, Matt Fisher. So Stuart was driving Clark, sailing with Matt, who won sailing the winningest Interlake in history, number 1174, that belonged to Stuart's grandfather, George Fisher. George was a terrific guy. I knew him well. Good evening. Welcome back. Thanks, Graham Sweeney. David Price, Pricey, Marseille tonight. Out time. They must be out. Yep, Claire Gesualdo Harrington, the esteemed Vice Commodore of the New York Yacht Club, is in the house. Hi from the US of A. She is back, I guess, Julia.
Yep.
From Barcelona, where she was in secret meetings.
Yes.
One here.
And we didn't even know she was there.
Well, we did. She tipped me off saying she was going, but she wouldn't tell me why she was going. But, I've been around the America's Cup since 1980, 44 years.
Uh-oh.
Hard to believe.
And you're only 27. How did that happen?
Yeah, exactly. I wish. Greg Phillips, greetings from the Gold Coast of Australia. But I tell you what, I feel young after being with that terrific group of young men and women, the sailors, the kids, the whole GovCup team. There's so much energy in that club at Balboa Yacht Club in the first place. And then when you add the GovCup, which is their signature event, annual event to it all, it was...
And those kids are just, we shouldn't say kids, but the competitors are fabulous.
Well, they are. And you saw them. Everybody who watched the shows saw them, and bravo Zulu to them all. I'm your host, Tom Eamon. Julia, of course, our coordinating producer. She's back on her headset, because we had some construction going on here in the neighborhood, so we thought we'd put Julia on her headset and eliminate one of the overhead mics that you can't really see in this shot to cut down on any ambient noise, but that's just me being a nerd as usual. Let's get into the show. Julia.
Yes.
Is your cabin, your cottage, your home up in Napa, is it safe?
Yeah, it is. We're quite a bit south
and a little bit west of this fire, which is up in Chico, up near Paradise, that burned burned to the ground, in 2018.
And it may again. It's very close.
So the fire is now the 6th largest. We're in fire season. It's hot. It's windy. They thought they had it starting to get under control, but this morning the reports are not good. And I hope everybody up there is safe. And thank you, by the way, to all of you who are texting and say, hey, we're reading about this fire. And are you guys okay? Yeah, we're okay. Julia's batch, Clark Chapin, yes.
Yes.
Her cottage, her home, really cute batch cottage up in Napa in wine country. Bobby Steele, who helped us with the weather at GovCup, is a Newport. Well, I asked him, aren't you a member of Newport Harbor? He hangs out at both at Newport Harbor Yacht Club and Balboa Yacht Club. Very highly respected Kiwi sailor, and does the weather for us at GovCup. World-class coverage of the Governor's Cup. Congrats to Cole Tapper and crew. Yeah, Ed Worley, I too was seeing that this fire was apparently started by arson.
Yes.
But it's going to heat up here and get windier, and God knows how this fire is, they're going to get it put out. But they will sooner or later. Julia, what are we celebrating today? There's your first and only clue.
The Olympics.
It is week 1 of the Olympics, and you know how many athletes and nations and classes? It's in the slide.
Oh, yes. 330 athletes. That doesn't sound like so many right now, but 65 nations sounds a lot.
Well, there's north of 10,000 athletes in the games, and they're trying to cut it back to 10,000. They've got everybody on a diet, all the sports, including us, which is why we now have all these qualifications.
Yeah.
So there's 330 athletes, 65 nations, and 10 events. 10, they call them disciplines. I call them classes because that's what we in our sport call them, classes. Mm-hmm. That's what we're celebrating today. We're also celebrating all of you who support us here at Sailing Illustrated, whether you watch the show regularly, come on the show as a guest or frequent guest, and those especially of you who give us $1 or $2 or more per month. Some of you give us quite a heap to keep us in our studio on the air. The GovCup comeback and 3 of 5 wins was impressive as heck. Yeah, that was Cole Tapper, who was down 2-0 and then came back with 3 straight wins. We're going to cover all of that. James Frederick Bland saying he has marked himself safe from the 2024 Olympic opening ceremonies. Ha ha. We're going to talk about that as well, as you can imagine. But first, let's recap the GovCup. Those of you who did watch will know what went on down there, but it was a terrific week that started last Monday night with the Meet the Teams, the opening ceremony hosted by Andy Rose, and it was a blast. It was an absolute blast, and bravo Zulu to everyone at Balboa Yacht Club who made it happen. Christine Gribben, who I interviewed in our Tuesday show, Julia, she has something like 150 volunteers.
Yeah, 145.
Is that what she said?
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you were listening.
I was.
I'm pushing buttons, and sometimes when I'm interviewing, it goes in one ear and out the other. Bannero is checking in. He's saying hi from I-95, which is the big interstate highway that goes from Miami up to Maine. He's trailering back to Connecticut from the Harrisoff H12 and a half class championships on Martha's Vineyard. How'd you do, Fuzzy Fozzie? He was always photographing up a storm. Nice to have you guys and gals back. Did we hear from Clark Chapin how he did? Did he say how he did in his interlake class, the 18-foot nationals?
He said they were the oldest.
You were the oldest, but maybe not the fastest. So Clark, let us know how you did. Graham Sweeney says that's because sailors are not good with discipline. Well, the kids down at the GovCup was probably the best group of sailors we've had, and not just skippers, but also crew. And it was a deep field. And as Andy said at the opening on Monday night, probably anybody can beat anybody on any given day. And then it happened.
Pretty clear at that.
15-year-old Sienna Nichols won a couple of key matches, was a bit of an upset, even though she finished a DFL in the regatta. She still won some in the rounds robin that surprised the hell out of, frankly, all of us.
Which is great.
Here's the bumper from the Governor's Cup at the beautiful Balboa Yacht Club. We had a week of hardly any clouds. And Bobby Steele says there's a time delay on my voice sync. Well, Bobby, I'm sorry to hear that. Let me maybe reboot your computer, because maybe you have got a problem at your end. I turned that off for a second. I didn't mean to do that. We didn't use the normal settings that we use here in the studio for down at Governor's Cup. Just click on the live time delay on your voice sync. Okay, I think John Emmett's right. I hope we don't have a time delay, an AV sync delay. That's how we check it, right in front of the mic. And hopefully we are in sync. Audio all good, New York City. Peter Taylor says, as we get on here with the GovCup, it is the oldest and most prestigious trophy in international and youth match racing internationally and otherwise. Thanks, Bobby. All good now. And it's was the 57th edition this year. And I must say, again, not to belabor the point, but the kids from top to bottom, from Cole Tapper to Sienna's team in 12th place, were just marvelous on and off the water. The chief bosun, Greg Newman, reported that the boats had the fewest. He had the fewest problems with the kids. You know, they do bang and touch a little bit, even coming into the dock. But he said it was the best, the fewest problems he's had with the boats, and that the kids have given him with the boats. It was just one good piece of news after another. The finals was interesting because it was the two finalists from last year, Cole Tapper and Jeffrey Peterson, although in the end they switched. Last year, Jeffrey won. This year, Cole won. And they were the class of the regatta from the beginning. Cole Tapper from the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia in Sydney has sailed, I think, 3 times now. Runner-up last year, he was down a couple places the year before that, but he still got, contrary to our press release, which we had one factual error in it, he has not aged out. So he's back for at least 1, maybe 2, depending upon if the age limit gets changed.
Yeah.
The age limit, as you know, is you cannot have turned 23 during the regatta. But World Sailing is trying to push everybody to use the same age limit, which is you can't turn 23 in the year of the event. Cole's birthday is in August, so he would be eligible, I believe, for 2 more years unless World Sailing forces Balboa Yacht Club to switch it to in the calendar year of the event, in which case he would age out after only 1 year. But regardless, a great run. Terrific job that he had. And as a couple of you pointed out, he was down 2-0 to Jeffrey in the final. It looked like Jeffrey was going to go through and get his unprecedented 3rd win, because no one's ever won it 3 times. There's 13 different teams, including Andy Rose, that have won it twice. But it looked like Jeffrey had a good shot at winning it, but no, it was not to be. This was after they crossed the finish line in the 5th and final race of the finals. You see that school in the background?
Yeah, I know. That's a great story. Yeah.
That's the Newport Beach. I can't remember what elementary school that is. The beach school, I think they call it, out on the peninsula. And we call it the beach course because we're literally racing right off that school, which is between the 2 piers, the Newport and the Balboa piers, about 250 meters off the beach. Wouldn't it have been sweet to go to that school as a kid?
Oh, yes.
And on recess or at lunchtime, go down and dip your toes in the water, or maybe go out for a little surf or a swim. Ed Worley asking, why would World Sailing have any input? Well, you try to go along with their suggestions to keep everything consistent from regatta to regatta for the other youth match racing that go on, the Harkin and the Warren Jones and the others around the world. But they are the governing body of the sport, as John Emmett is pointing out, and we don't have to do it, but it is better to have a standard age limit, as John Emmett is pointing out. But again, you can do what you want because we are our own governing body for that event. Balboa Yacht Club is the organizing authority. And once you do it for one event, also the Rose Cup, which is the U.S. National Youth Match Racing Championship, and on, you start to say, well, should we do it for that? By the way, Balboa Yacht Club is hosting that next year as well. Right. We may be doing 2 events down there. Alan Long asking, did you all cover the 100th Bayview Mackinac last week? Haven't had a chance to pursue. We did promo it, talked about it, and how they had a record number of boats. I think 330, speaking of 330, that's the number of competitors at the Olympics, but I think they had something like that in terms of the number of boats in the 100th Bayview. That's the Detroit to Mackinac Lake Huron race last week. We'll cover, maybe in retrospect, see if I can find a video on that and cover that down the road. But we did give it a little bit of promo and love Didn't talk too much about the Chicago Mac, the one that runs up Lake Michigan from Chicago up to Mackinac Island. And maybe we'll give you a wrap up of those two big freshwater offshore races on the lakes. Back to the GovCup. Here is the traditional jump overboard. You can see the bosuns, Greg Newman at the wheel, and his deputy there, Patrick Lieber, up in the bow, is just getting maneuvered into position to hop into the GovCup 22.
Yeah. All the crew jumps off the racing boat, and it has been known to float away.
Well, yeah, usually it takes the bosuns a bit more time to get into action and get the boat under control, but there wasn't much breeze. It was pretty light at that point, kind of 5 knots. And the team, there's the big hug, as you see. I guess that's Jack and that's Cole, and I'm not sure which of the two crew that is from afar, but it's fabulous end to the regatta. And then they are picked up traditionally by our roving boat that, again, this year we had Tommy Spithill, who was our roving boat commentator, interviewing the wet winners, Cole in the middle, Hamish Voss on the right, Jack Freeman on the left, I believe, on the roving boat. And I'll tell you, having the roving boat and having Tommy Spithill with his expertise, he sailed in the GovCup and won it. He's won it, I think, twice as the bowman, I think I heard him say in one of our shows. And he said, technically I crossed the finish line first. So I beat the skipper on the bow. But his expertise, and of course from that famously good sailing family, the Spithill family, his brother Jimmy, with whom I've done 3 America's Cups, I think 3 America's Cups, and his sister Katie is arguably as good, if not better sailor than Tommy and Jimmy. Yeah. But it was great to have him, and these guys were very popular winners. They're terrific team, and I hope to see them back next year. I'm sure they will be, and maybe 2 more times. Maybe they will have a chance now at winning the GovCup for a second and third time. Several of you asked, why am I on the bloody stage? Well, I try every year to get off the stage, as you know, Julia.
Yes.
But we do the interviews. Andy wants me on the stage to help him with the press conference, which we're doing just before that. And so far, we haven't been able to find another volunteer who can switch the show and host it and do that. If I could find somebody to switch the show, I would get off, or I'd stay on the stage and just host the shows, or we'd find somebody else to host the shows that Andy's comfortable with and co-host them with him, the interviews, and I'd get off the stage like I am on Monday night. I'm in the front of house with the audio guy doing it. So that's why I'm up there. We try to get the cameras oriented so that I'm being blocked out of the shot by the Vice Commodore in this case, or the Commodore Randy Taylor over there on the right. But that's why, and the answer to your question. Saturday evening at the awards ceremony, the traditional hoist above the heads of the GovCup, which has been going on now for nearly 60 years, 57 years. That's Jack Freeman on the left, Hamish Voss holding the trophy. This is how modest and humble and cool Cole Tapper is. He lets his crew get a lot of the credit because they deserve.
Absolutely, and he says so. Yeah.
A lot of the credit. And Cole's just kind of standing by, enjoying them. I'll tell you what, those 2 guys, especially Hamish in the middle, is just a character beyond belief.
One of the things I really love about GovCup is that everybody races till the very end, and nobody sits around and watches at all. And so all the races, they're 6 spots and 12 teams.
Exactly. And well, there's 12 spots ultimately.
Yeah, right.
But what Andy has done in the GovCup steering committee, I agree with you, Julie. I like the format because once you get into the finals and the petit finale, which is the consolation for 3rd and 4th,
right,
as you're saying, 5th and 6th coming out of the rounds robin, they race to determine a final 5th and 6th. And Morgan was 5th coming out of the rounds robin, but he got beaten by Tom Hyde from Ireland, and that flipped. So ultimately, finally, the 5th place went to Tom Hyde, and Morgan dropped to 6th. Same thing for 7th and 8th, 9th, 10th, and so on down to the bottom. So everybody has one more chance to improve their
Yes.
position or maintain their position.
And they're all such good sailors. There wasn't a hem-haw among them at all.
And the boat handling and the tactics, the crew works, the starting,
Mhm.
not only does it improve through the week, and you
Yes.
can see how and some of these kids have never sailed these boats. 4 of the 12 had never been to GovCup.
Yeah.
Some of them haven't sailed a boat. Some of them haven't sailed them in a year, like Justin Callahan had
Right.
not raced since the GovCup last year. Some of them are off doing big boats. Some of them are, tell me what.
Yeah.
Good points. Go Aussies. Alistair Murray, very proud of Cole and crew. Yes, you should be, as all the Aussies were. And at the prize giving that night, it was a big crowd, big audience, several hundred people. And then the old Aussie chant break, Aussie, 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 oi, 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 however that goes. And the whole crowd joins in. And it was another marvelous moment in the history.
I've also gotten to hear from a lot of my buds at the Royal Prince Alfred.
The RPA, as they call
The
it.
RPA.
Yeah. Well, the RPA, and of course, Tommy Spithill's from the RPA. They
Right.
had a team from the RPA there.
Right.
And one of the things that's nice about winning the GovCup is the winner gets a hand-delivered invitation from the Long Beach Yacht Club to the FRA Cup, which is the qualifier, the local qualifier for the Congressional Cup next year. And that's second from of course, on the right is the Regatta chair for life, Christine Gribben. And then second from the right is the Vice Commodore of Long Beach Yacht Club, Lisa Meyer, and another gentleman, Mr. Meyer, whose first name I missed. He is involved with FRA Cup and Congressional Cup next year, handing the invitation to Cole Tapper at the prize giving. Before the prize giving, when they got back in on the dock, both teams, Jeffrey's team, Cole's team, big hugs on the dock, and then they all predictably threw each other in.
Yep.
And there's Bronnie Daniels in the back, and her always wearing a pink shirt, taking photos. She was one of our 4 volunteer photographers, along with Tom Walker and Mary Longpre and a guy called Bruce Crary from over at Newport Harbor Yacht Club. Terrific job, and really quite different styles as photographers. So it's nice to have Mary Longpre's kind of up close and personal face shots. And this is a Tom Walker shot, I believe, out on the dock. And Tom takes more artsy-fartsy kind of boat shots, and he gets a lot of the stuff on shore as well, as you can see, as does Bronnie Daniels. Good stuff. Much appreciated. And bravo Zulu also to Jeffrey's team. Jeffrey Peterson, of course, from the host Balboa Yacht Club. He grew up there, sailing there. He's now sailing collegiately for Georgetown University in Washington, D.C. Jeffrey's team finished second, as you know. But over the last 4 events, he's been 1, 2, 1, 2, which I think is probably an unequaled record. And that's with different crew.
Mhm.
This year he had Daniel Pegg, the big tall guy in the middle who was sitting middle boat. And then he had Enzo Mendita, who's a colleague who sails with Jeffrey on the Georgetown University sailing team. And Enzo did another good job this year. Andy Rose argues is one of just the best natural sailors at that age in the country, at any age probably, but certainly at this age. They were very modest and humble. They were great representatives of the club and indeed of our beloved sport. Third place on the podium, as you would say, was Justin Callahan, also from the USA, Biscayne Bay Yacht Club. And he and his team not only took third, beating Josh Hyde from New Zealand. Josh is young. He's like 17, maybe 18. And he is very bright and very articulate and also a great sportsman. He and his team representing the Kiwis and the Royal New Zealand Yacht Squadron very, very well, losing to Justin in the Petit Finale 2-1. That was arguably the best series of the regatta. 1-1 and then 2-1 and close racing, lots of lead changes, in fact, in the lightish air.
Yeah, that's strange that there were a lot of lead changes
Indeed.
in the
Well,
light air.
it's part of it is the symmetrical spinnakers. I mean, we got old style OG type spinnakers, which are symmetrical, meaning they're the same length on both luffs, You don't have a tack that's tacked up there on the bow like the modern, like the America's Cup boats.
Yeah.
Well, they don't have any spinnakers at all.
No.
But the ace sails, the asymmetrical sails, and those asymmetrical sails then tack like a great big jib. You pull the clue with the trailing edge, the trailing lower corner all the way out and around the luff. These sails allow you to come around if you're in second place at the windward mark and get on the wind and throw a wind shadow onto the boat ahead, which is a much better match racing sail, the symmetrical spinnakers, than an A sail, the S sail instead of the A sail. And the last time we had S sails in the America's Cup were on the IACC boats, which is why they were such good match racing boats.
Yes.
From 92 until 07. Before that, we had S sails, of course, on the 12 meters, which were raced in the Cup from
1981.
58.
58, yeah.
Until 83.
83.
Well, 87, because we're also in Perth in 87.
Yeah.
More boat handling makes it more competitive as well. Good point, Chris, actually. Very good point indeed. A little back and forth about the Chicago Mac races and results. Thank you, Clark, for that link to the FREEP. You know what the FREEP is, Julia?
I forgot.
FREEP.com. That's here like the sfgate.com. It's the newspaper's website for the Detroit Free Press. FREEP.
FREEP.
Not freak, a freak. So Justin Callahan and his crew of Trevor Davis, Michaela O'Brien, and she's a character. I fell in love with her. She was fabulous on stage, on the water. And likewise, Spencer Kriegstein, we figured that's how it can be pronounced Kriegstein or Kriegstein, depending upon whether you're German or Yiddish or however the pronunciation best suits you. A very bright group of kids, and they also very sportingly conducted themselves very sportingly, and won. Team Callahan did the Chet and Glee Purcell Sportsmanship Award, presented by Tom Purcell in the blue shirt up there, who was a member of our GovCup TV team, co-owner of the Andrews 50 with Andy Rose, a hell of a good sailor, and also a multiple GovCup winner himself back in the day, Tom Purcell. His parents, Chet and Glee Purcell, started the GovCup, saw the Congressional Cup, and said, wow, what a good idea. Why don't we do a youth version of the Congressional Cup?
Yeah.
Again, this is almost 60 years ago. Hence the Sportsmanship Award given by their son, Tom, there in the blue GovCup shirt, GovCup TV shirt, and won. By the vote, by the way, a vote is taken of all the sailors on the final morning. When we do the morning show, Christine hands out a ballot, the sailors vote, and it was an overwhelming vote in favor of Team Callahan. Now, speaking of Team Callahan, this is my longtime friend, New York Yacht Club member, stalwart Paul Callahan, Justin's father, who had suffered an accident, spinal accident, quite some years ago, but he is back just now. He's in a chair, but he's back now to sailing, parasailing, and this is the first time I think he's raced in 12 some years. He went to the U.S. Sailing Parasailing Champs this past weekend, and while his son Justin was finishing third at the GovCup, he was winning the sonar class.
Oh, good. I didn't hear that. Yeah.
After being out of parasailing for 12 years, went up to Chicago and won the U.S. Sailing's Parasailing Championship in one of 3 classes in the sonar class. So bravo Zulu to him as well.
Oh, that's good news.
Paul Callahan is a terrific guy. Now, you see that flag? You know what flag that is, Julia?
No.
Ireland,
Oh.
Irlanda.
Oh, yes.
Tom Hyde, who I keep using this fantastic photo I found online of him going to, I guess, a high school prom or something, or maybe a college prom. Tom Higgins of Ireland, who finished DFL last year, representing the Royal St. George Yacht Club, was back. And if we had a trophy, in fact, I said to Andy, we really should give out a most improved award, a trophy for somebody who's come back and improved their standing the most. Well, he was DFL last year, and this year he was 5th. Beat Morgan Pinckney, the local terrific sailor from Newport Harbor Yacht Club, in that 5th, 6th match, and his team sailed well all week. Looked for a while like they might even get into the semifinals, into
Yes.
the top four, but didn't quite. There's Morgan and Co. in the back in their fifth, sixth match. Clearly the most improved, Carl Horfelt, Jamie McMahon, and Tom Higgins. And also a lot of fun on shore, helped me a lot with the shows and so on.
And then they also said that thanks to them and others, that match racing is taking off in Ireland.
Yeah, Andy said that several times, that that these kids had reported to him. He's the national something champion, I guess Irish national match racing champion, but it's starting to take off, is helping match racing take off, as you say, in schools and unis and so on, clubs around Ireland. Chris Exley, Gordon Smith, I guess. GB has just won gold from the USA and Australia in the men's 4x200 meter freestyle with swimming. Brilliant race. Thanks, Gordon. Alan Long, I haven't had a chance to speak with him, as I'll be returning to CLE, which is Cleveland, tomorrow for the ILYA Bay Week out at Put-in Bay that's an island just off the south shore of Lake Erie. 75 boats. Great. That's a fun regatta. Sailing is better on islands, Julia, whether it's Bermuda or Aquidneck Island where Newport is, whether it's this, Australia is just a big island, right?
Right.
Hobart, Tasmania is a big island.
Mm-hmm.
The UK, Sardinia, we've gone over this ad nauseum about how sailing is great on islands, and Put-in Bay on the south shore of Lake Erie, just off the south shore of Lake Erie, the town of Sandusky. J. Frederick Bland, symmetrical spinnakers are better all-around sail than the ASIM. ASIMs need to reach up to maximize VMG. Yes, you got to sail higher angles. Race is more of a parade. Yes, indeed. Stingray, checking in. The personalities and everything is fun, but what tactics won the actual racing? I'll tell you what, Stingray, it was better starts. Cole Tapper was, boat speed is always important, and Jeffrey was arguably a click faster downwind, and Cole was arguably a click faster upwind, but it was really the starts. Cole consistently started a touch better than Jeffrey did, and in those last couple races when we could see the breeze was going right, he bounced Jeffrey to the left off the starting line. Jeffrey then, frankly, I think Jeffrey made a mistake by going so far left. He should have tacked back and tried to dig into the right up underneath Cole, who'd gotten off the line and gotten to the right. So if you think the breeze is persistently going to shift to the right, you've got to get to the right. The sooner the better. But the left had paid for Jeffrey in the first two races. He'd gone out and there was a wobble. There was a little bit of a oscillation back to the left. He was able to tack on the oscillation and get back. So it's a tough call. But those were the tactics that were involved as well. The root cause is that the wind shadow on an asymmetrical spinnaker boat is always behind, never ahead. Yes, true. The boat behind has no weapons and they're overtaking arsenal. Excuse me for playing with my nose, but it itches. An itchy nose, Julia. There's Monica Mino. Did you get the picture, Monica, that Christophe Chalmant, he took a selfie of the two of us and said it was for you and Fred down in Texas. GN wins gold in swimming relay. GN, he means GB. Okay, good. Yeah, Julie, have you watched any of the Olympics?
Yes.
What's your favorite event so far? The U.S. gymnastics, they got a silver last night.
Yeah, that was. I watched the end of them, not all the way through.
And arguably the star of that team went to the University of. He's a Michigan boy. Star of that gymnastics team.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a member of the team. Yes, there was a member of the team from Stanford, which is why I thought you were wearing cardinal red to celebrate Stanford again today.
Yeah, well, Stanford has quite a few. I think Stanford has, I think maybe the majority of U.S. athletes have trained at Stanford.
I almost put it in the show, and then I thought it was going to make your head get big.
But I think that's just true.
But not only, first of all, the first stat is California's had over 900 medals, Californians, in the Olympics. 900 medals is more than any other country except the U.S. and maybe Great Britain, and I can't remember. But the California itself, if it were a country, has had more medals than China, than Japan, than yada yada. Number 2, just to make you feel even better.
Yes.
Most of those medals came from Stanfordites, kids who went to Stanford, trained at Stanford. You have a great school. Now you feel better?
Yes.
I didn't put that in the show. 3x3 basketball instead of fin sailing. Yeah, WTF, J. Frederick Bland is sailing. Yeah, Blake M., who used to coach sailing at Stanford, was no. Oh, U.S. gymnastics won a bronze, but the women won gold. Okay, yeah, the women won gold. That was fun to watch. I'll tell you, that French kid who was in the IM swimming, whose name escapes me, who trained in Arizona State, and man, was he fast. He won by a proverbial horizon job if he were a sailor.
I'm a big fan of Simone Giles.
Oh, for sure. Fog machine, watching the Olympics now, and have been watching sailing like with Jobson commentary, horrible lack of wind. Yes, it's been light and not just shitterly, frankly. I watched it this morning. I watched the 49ers sail. That was covered here on NBC, or what's called Peacock.
Yes.
NBC's logo since forever has been that peacock.
Right.
Especially since NBC went to in living color way back in the the 60s. And now they have their streaming network. It's called the Peacock Network, which I have access to as part of my cable thing here, Comcast. Do you have it?
Sure.
Alistair Murray, best event I have been to. He's in Marseille. So far was or I guess he's in Paris too, was the Aussie Jessica Fox win in the kayak rapids. Was a great thrill to be there.
That was good. I did see the end of that.
Yeah, poor old Gary Jobson. A lot of you think the commentary has been pretty flat and pretty blasé and pretty. Handball sports should be eliminated. No, Baton Rouge, that's a big sport in Europe. That is a big sport in Europe. J. Frederick Bland's going off to the gym to train for the Finn Masters, which is at San Diego Yacht Club in October. Graham Sweeney, my dog blocks my TV when I get excited about sports.
Not lovely.
Stingray pointing out that SailGP's Diego Botín is currently leading in the men's skiff. Yeah, we're going to cover that.
Oh, that's
We're going to cover that well, but they had a great day today and launched themselves in the first place in the 49er. But poor old Gary Jobson. Let's finish up here the GovCup, and then we'll talk about the Olympics.
Yeah.
Again, bravo Zulu to Carl, Jamie, and Tom Higgins. They were the most improved from Ireland. And also bravo Zulu to the last place finisher, which, Tom Higgins' team was last year. But this year, Sienna Nickel on the left, age 15, driving her team, representing also Balboa Yacht Club. Her twin sister, Maddie Nichols, trimming main, sitting and calling tactics, I guess, some of the time anyway, sitting second from the left. Third from the left is Kai Brennan. He is a really sharp guy and a hell of a good sailor in his own right. And then Eddie, do I have that right? Eddie Kleem. I think Eddie's third from the left, and then Kai Brennan is far right, and she is 18 in the adult supervision at 18. Help me out, Fozy, who know the names. I think that is backwards. I think the gentleman's name is Eddie Kleem, and then Kai Brennan is on the right from memory. But who knows? After now my 11th show in a week, I am a bit more croutonic than usual. Final results here. They are Cole Jeffrey, Justin Callahan, Josh Hyde, Tom Higgins in fifth. Morgan Pinckney, disappointing. He was really down after he didn't make the semifinals on Friday.
And he's contested for the first place.
Well, last year he was third, right?
Yeah.
I think from memory, and he is going to be back. He's not aged out. He's got 2 or maybe 3 more years. He's going to win it sooner or later. He's just a terrific sailor from Newport Harbor Yacht Club. And then the rest of the group, Marcello Torre, who is another character and great kid, great team from the WA from the Royal Freshwater Bay Yacht Club in Western Australia. Daniel Kemp, also from Aussie, Robbie McCutcheon from New Zealand. I think I have those right now. and Nicholas Bernal from Brazil. A little bit better, about the same as he did last year. Dylan C., his first year, he's young. He will be a freshman, Julia, at your beloved Stanford.
Indeed.
And then Sienna Nichols, who's only 15. She's going to.
And she is terrific.
She is. She's carrying on. Interestingly enough, Japan leads the medal score so far. Yeah, I saw that, Graham. I saw that as well. Okay, so, I didn't put it in the show. I was going to, but do we really care about which country is leading the medals? I guess everybody else does. So more interesting, I think, to us is who's leading the sailing medals. As we go forward with our show, the Sailing Illustrated show, we get accused of covering other things sometimes, including music, including booze,
yes,
and a few other things. John Emmett checking in. He is on the family farm laying pipe. He's laying pipe, Julia.
Very versatile.
He's actually doing that. Lily is up commentating for other sports up in Marseille, or up in Paris rather, commentating for Chinese national TV and others. But John is working on the farm, eating his heart out that he's not in Marseille at the Olympics. But regardless, here is the Coaching Corner with John Emmett.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the Fozy. Welcome to John Emmett's Coaching Corner. I'm talking to you today from the Millennium Wood in Imberhorn Farm. So see if you can guess what the topic is. You might be able to guess it's the Millennium Wood because we planted 2,000 trees in the year 2000. But actually, we had to plant probably around 2,500 because not all young trees will make it. And no, if you guessed that sustainability was the topic, you were close, but not quite right. We actually opened it in 2001 using a local primary school where my dad was a governor. And the wood itself has a lot of sentimental memories. And no, if you guessed, I'm not going to be talking about wooden boats, although I guess that was probably a heyday for sailing, certainly in terms of affordability and accessibility. But unfortunately now, most people won't have the time to build their own boats, especially people who are new to the sport. They're not going to want to spend many hours building a boat before they get on the water. But yeah, I actually planted a very special tree here in 2012 in memory of my father and buried his ashes here, and I ended up sailing the next day in Weymouth with Lily as part of her 2012 campaign. But the topic of today, and something I'd like you to think really seriously about, is investing for the future. And I think there's no better example than this wood. You plant lots of young trees, not all of them make it, but it's over 20 years before you see the full results of your effort. So that planning for the future and putting the effort in, even if you don't get immediate results, that's a very important thing. Good example is probably something like the British sailing team, where the lottery funding meant that they could invest in allowing sailors to sail full time, and over 20 years later now, and that's the system just goes from success to success. What I'd really like though is to know a little bit about the Fozy. And one of the things I really like about Sailing Illustrated, it's not just people talking about sailing, but it's active sailors. So why not tell me where you're sailing, what you're sailing, and who you're sailing with. I'll see you later on the show, and maybe sustainability will be another really good topic for the Coaching Corner.
How many sailing shows have one of their major contributors walking around in a wood on their family farm, having planted, thousands, I guess, but lots of trees?
I hate to say this, but why did they do that?
I think just for the sustainability factor, to build it back up and take the carbon out of the air and put some, or take the oxygen out of the air, I guess, and put the carbon in the air. What do trees do, Julia?
Yes.
No. What did you sail this week? Fantastic, John. Everyone should plant trees if they can. That's why my town in Ann Arbor is called Tree Town. It's called Tree Town because there's so bloody many trees, and people are always saving the trees and planting the trees.
Yeah.
2,000 trees for the year 2000, John Emmett is saying.
That's nice.
A nice place for people to walk,
Yes.
right?
Perfect.
And we did the same for my mom. I don't know if I ever said that when we were back in Michigan a few weeks ago, and we had my late great mother, who was a big fan of the show, who'd passed away last November. We saved her ashes, and then the whole family gathered at my sister's farm, where my sister and mom, while she was still alive, had planted a tree and then spread her ashes and her partner's ashes, who had died some years ago, and one of her sisters.
Mm-hmm.
And my wife's mother's ashes. My wife's mother, Geraldine, and my mother were great friends, and they wanted their ashes spread together and under a tree that was planted by my beloved sister and my beloved late great mother. I've planted an acre of indigenous trees. Roger Lockhart says Stanford trees.
Yeah.
Yes, the Stanford tree, which is the... Do that again.
Mascot.
Give us your thumbs up.
The mascot.
The mascot. It's a special mascot, as the Germans would say, Julie. It's pretty weird what goes on
It is.
with your Stanford marching band and the tree,
Well,
which is your drum major.
yes.
In Michigan, we have a proper drum major with that big fuzzy hat, and he's got a thing. And
Right,
she,
right,
I
right.
can't. It's usually a he, but I don't know if they have a female
Yeah.
drum major yet. Nice report, John. And if you think I was teasing or kidding about him laying pipe, well, I have the pictures to prove it.
Wow.
At their farm, not only was this not just any pipe, but they had a sewage pipe that had to be replaced. And John is at the farm to supervise that replacement.
Wow.
They are indeed laying pipe, and it's a big one. It's a long one. You can see them, this shadow. They're taking the picture on the family farm. I'm just, while we're talking about farms, Clark Chapin saying that my sister, Ruth, also planted trees for both his parents. It was very deeply, my sister is a mensch. She is a terrific lady, and a couple years younger than I, number 2 of the 5 of us, and has a farm and is an active, she's old. She's just a couple years younger than I, and she works all day, every day with that farm, raising all manner of things, and eggs and beef and cattle. She works her little hiney off. Of what material is the pipe? It looks like copper, Clark is saying. I don't know. John is on here. Maybe he can tell us. But he did get it done, and he's going back to Weymouth. And by the way, John will be our guest on Friday.
Oh, good.
He knows more. He's forgotten more about the Olympics than I know, or at least latterly. So John will be our live guest from Weymouth, and he, in the meantime, will have all of his tentacles out, gathering information for us. Alistair is also there. Alistair and Andrew Pindar, with whom I texted this morning, and Andrew and Alistair are getting together, and they're going to try to shoot a video.
Oh, good.
So we'll have a little something from them,
Super.
as well as the FOSI,
Report.
our community of fabulous FOSI,
Yes.
are at the Olympics. No plastic pipe, copper pipe, ceramic. I don't know what it is. What do you think this is? Pipes illustrated? Sewage illustrated? I told you he was laying pipe and you didn't believe me, Julia.
I did. Because he's a farmer and I'm basically a farmer.
You are not. You grew up on a farm though, right?
Yes. My family on one side is farmers all the way back to the...
What did you grow on your farm down near Santa Barbara? Carpinteria.
Lemons and avocados.
Why don't we have more avocados? I was talking with Dr. Bray, Rob Bray, who's one of the sponsors,
Yeah.
neurosurgeon, and he spent 2 days with us on the broadcast boat. And of course, inevitably, we talk about hearts and AFib and spines. And he's done work as a neurosurgeon. He's done the spines of Andy Rose, Tyler Wolk. He's repaired Jimmy Spithill. I can't remember all the people he's repaired. and we start talking about health and nutrition. He said we, of people of our age, so that includes, some number of FOSI who are our age, should be he said, look, you take one multivitamin, a Zentrum Silver, or he uses something called One. He said, if you don't need the vitamins, your body will, sorry to be crude, piss them away.
Yeah.
But if you do need the vitamins and you don't know it and you haven't had your blood test, you'll be better. So he says, take one multivitamin. I thought it was a piece of news to pass on here on Vitamin Illustrated, Medical Illustrated.
Yeah.
I'm not a doctor. Consult your own doctor.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to spend 2 days with Rob Bray, Dr. Rob Bray, who is a great sailor and a Balboa Yacht Club member, and we learned a couple other things from which I'll pass to you privately, so I don't get sued by the American Medical Association for giving medical advice here on the show, which clearly is not a medical show. John Emmett has regular blood tests. Yes, I've got a blood draw coming up here this week, just to check in on my annual physical. You know what also happened on this day in history? I didn't use it.
Right.
And then all the other countries will laugh at us because they have National Health Service in virtually all the other countries. Medicare, which is our national health care for seniors, was put into service on this day, or signed into law on this day in 1960 something by President Lyndon B. Johnson. And I must say, I, for one, am very happy we have Medicare.
I am too.
You've got all sorts. You're rich. You got all sorts of insurance and multiple hospital plans, and you got. No wonder you're 85 and going strong. I'm just a poor, simple country boy from Michigan, and
going strong.
And I hope, knock on wood. Ooh, that sounded pretty woody too. 1965 on this date, Clark Chapin says, Medicare, we finally got National Health Service, but for seniors only in this country. Mm-hmm. Some would argue that's Crutonic. Some would argue that Medicare was Crutonic.
Depends on who's elected. We might have
our own National Health Service, which there are lots of problems with it in various countries. I'll tell you, the one country I lived in where it worked great was Germany. You didn't have to make an appointment at your local clinic. You went down, you had expert medical service, didn't cost a thing. You went in, they fixed you, you walked out.
I think things have gotten a little tighter now.
Well, maybe. Okay, we're talking about pipes. We're talking about Medicare. We're talking about God knows what else.
Putting sails on them,
on this sailing show.
Yeah.
Okay, they're all arguing about what kind of piping that John just laid. Clark Chapin replied, interesting, in the U.S., I think would be PVC, polyvinyl chloride. Inside houses, most new construction repair is PEX, PEX, high-density polyethylene, but flexible, and PV. Oh, my goodness, this is Piping Illustrated, and it's not even piping hot. The opening ceremony, Andy Rose and I went home on Friday night, turned on the tube. We went home early, actually, rather than staying over at Balboa Yacht Club last Friday to watch the opening ceremony, and it was, again, interesting and, shall we say, complicated. I don't know how you all felt about it. It was also wet. The rains, the skies opened up, and this was the German delegation, not necessarily the sailing team, but everybody had these little ponchos, plastic ponchos on, and they were taking selfies in the rain. It didn't look like it dampened the spirit of any of the athletes on the boats. I thought the boats were cool. Thank God there was no security issues. And apparently the French were armed to the teeth. They had all the security services outlining the Seine up and down to be sure there weren't any problems. But the ceremony itself, you have to ask yourselves, was it correct or Crutonic? And I'm only going to put one picture up. Several of you sent this to me, believe it or not. This very picture, it must have been on a sailing site or a meme on some site, but there it is. It's not the Olympic Games, it's the Ozempic Games. And this, of course, was the lady depicted in the, apparently they now admit it was the Last Supper, a spoof of the Last Supper. Ted Ryman thinks the opening and some of the stuff was Crutonic. Blake Middleton says it was correct. Gordon Smith said it was excellent, did a great job of showing Paris off and welcoming the athletes. Have we heard the results from the Hawk Tour? Graham Sweeney. Get Paul Henderson. He's a plumber. They're back still on the pipes, Julia.
Yes.
Any good government program has to be alliterative. PECs with, oh my God, they're still discussing pipe. Opening ceremony was great, Thierry de Jong says. So there are mixed reports, mixed views. Andy, who is not a conservative political person, he said, I got to turn this off. So even he was not amused. The Olympic opening ceremonies offended so many Christians. Ironically, it was performed by woke activists that are offended by everything but their own offensive actions. Absolutely crotonic from our Fozy Clayton Emily in Kentucky. Mm-hmm. Well, you got a couple of pros and you got a big con there. So we're not a political committee here, a political show, but there were wide views about particularly this aspect of it. And we won't say anything more than that. Let's get into the sailing. And here is a quick video from World Sailing about the Olympic Games.
Det här är spelet vi spelar.
ये हमारा खेल है.
This is sailing.
To jest żeglarstwo.
Das ist meine Bestimmung.
This has been my goal since I started.
ये मेरा सपना था बचपन से.
Där har vi varit mitt mål sedan jag började.
Esto es la náutica olímpica.
Det här är OS-segling.
ये है ओलंपिक नाव चलाना.
This is Olympic sailing.
To jest żeglarstwo olimpijskie.
Das ist olympisches Kiteboarden.
To je olimpijsko kajtanje.
This is Olympic sailing.
Let the games begin. That's from World Sailing. I guess it was okay. I wasn't wild about it for some reason. They did it in a bunch of different languages, which was nice. Oh, my goodness, Julia, they're back on the opening ceremony. Many good segments, Lance Burke, a.k.a. Fog Machine, is saying, like Celine Dion, but many crotonic moments too. Menage a trois as an Olympic sport. Yeah, that was a little much. That was a little much. Alistair Murray, I like his comment there up above. The vision was to bring the opening ceremony to the people, but there were so many police and military that they prevented all public from watching it from the banks. Yeah, you had to be in the VIP grandstands. I stayed on the aisle, St. Louis in the middle of the river, and ended up watching it on TV, crotonic.
Well, that's probably the best way to see it.
Alan Long says however, he's going to say it was correct. People are too sensitive, get a sense of humor. Okay.
Right.
So again, lots of people, pro and con. Ted Ryman replying to Alan Long, I agree, but I'm biased by comparing it to our 2012 opening ceremony with the Queen parachuting into the stadium. I think one thing for sure is that it was a lot easier. It is a lot easier to run what we think of as a modern Olympic opening ceremony or the Super Bowl halftime, et cetera, in a stadium where you don't have the security because the security's at the doors and you've got metal detectors and so on, and they really got great security stopping any croutons from getting in, number one. Number two, they got a roof that even if it's an open roof stadium can be closed normally if it does rain or snow, not in Paris in the summer. So, and then you got light shows and you got the field and you just got a much easier.
I really love the idea of doing it on this thing, and especially and compared with every other year. No, there's been no other opening like it, and there probably won't be one again. So,
well, the French are trying to be edgy, as they often are. Gordon Smith will let him have the final comment. The ceremony was not controversial unless you are intolerant of diverse perspectives, which is not a problem of faith.
Nice.
Okay, well, there's some people who would argue with that, but we're not going to, because we're going to talk Such a weird world when you have a non-sailing CEO. See, I lied. I said we would. That was the last comment, but I loved Alan Long's comment. I had to go back to it. So there is the sailing schedule, which came out after our show a week ago, before I left and went south. Finally, a nice schedule. There have been some other ones, and World Sailing put this one out. I thought it was really good to show the racing. And it's a little hard to tell in this slide, but is that where it's the blue, not the, well, there's so much blue in this, it's hard to tell, but the racing days, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, we're now on Tuesday the 30th, and the only fleets that are racing are the men's windsurfing, the women's windsurfing, and then down below the men's skiff and the women's skiff. And of course, they're using discipline names, not class names. We used to use the class names. But that will continue then on Wednesday for the windsurfing, which is in the IQ foil, the skiff, which of course is the FX and the 49er, continuing tomorrow, and then continuing also on Thursday for the windsurfing. And then on Thursday, because they like to stagger the medal events, the skiff medal events are Thursday, that's the red. And then the windsurfing medal events are Friday. In the meantime, other fleets get going. The men's dinghy, which is the Ilka, and the women's dinghy, the Ilka 6, 7, and 6 respectively. They get going on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, continue into next week, Sunday, Monday, and their medal race is Tuesday. And then the women's kite and men's kite and women's kite start Sunday, continue through Wednesday, and their medal races are next Thursday, a week Thursday. And down below, the mixed dinghy, which is the 470, gets underway Friday. The mixed mully hull gets underway Saturday, and their medal races are next Wednesday. And then, of course, the final medal race is for, guess what? The kites on Thursday, the 8th, as I mentioned. So what's with the mixed sex thing? I don't know what that's all about. The event names, yeah, okay. Blake Middleton says, I love the idea of thinking outside the box by using the river. I still vote damn cool. He likes the river. Yeah, I do too for the opening ceremony, but it was tough on many fronts. So there's the schedule, as you in the Commonwealth might say. And we can dilly-dally on the schedule, but let's not. In the meantime, speaking of the Commonwealth, here is the Team GB, the British sailing team's video that just came out before the games.
After 3 years of waiting, it's finally time for Paris 2024. And here's what you need to know about the greatest show on earth. 330 athletes will battle it out in Marseille on France's Mediterranean coast, the greatest prize in sailing, an Olympic gold medal. We've got 14 athletes representing Great Britain across the 10 classes, from Olympic medalists to new kids on the block. There's only one entry per nation in each of the 10 classes, so that means fleet sizes are much smaller than a normal regatta. The sailing competition starts on July the 28th and finishes on August the 8th. You can find the full schedule on our social channels and on our website. To watch all the action live, you'll need a subscription to Discovery Plus, but it's only £7 for the whole month. So sit back, enjoy the show, and back the Brits.
Nice.
I like that video a lot better, frankly, than the World Sailing video.
Yeah.
I don't know how you feel about it, Julie. You like that?
Yeah, I like it.
And I don't know who the gentleman is, the bearded gentleman who was hosting that video, but he must be their social media coordinator or videographer for the team, the way that Nathan Outeridge's brother, Bo Outeridge, is embedded with the Australian team and taking great stuff. We'll use some of his stuff going forward, I'm sure, from the Aussies, and Alistair Murray has assured us that Will Carson is his name. John Emmett, I knew somebody would know. Ted Ryman agreeing it was a great video. And Clay Dembley still bemoaning, as do I, the Star and the Soling and some of the bigger boats. They are kids' boats. I miss the Star, Star and Soling in the Olympics. Yeah, with as much of our sport is being raced in big boats, not only boats with lids like, PHRF boats, we call them in this that's a fleet that using a handicap rule called Performance Handicap Racing Fleet, the PHRF rule, which is generally applied for smaller boats, but also bigger boats, but offshore boats or nearshore boats, distance racing. And that's the huge chunk. What, half of our sport is in boats, keel boats, large and small? Nothing in the Olympics. And I think it's a shame. I agree, Clayton Embley. Some great photos by Gilles Martin Roger. We haven't used his name in a while. My old friend, long time. We did several Cup campaigns together. He was our team photographer in the Oracle years. And even before. He's French, obviously, and one of the best photographers in the sport. These are his photos. I thought we'd introduce you all to some of what's going on at the venue. That's what it looks like. They're in Marseille. Here are the courses. I don't know how well you can see that, but they have the Corniche course, which is obviously right off the Corniche, for those of you who know Marseille. And then another course right close up against the shore is called the Marseille course. And then, Julia, I have no idea how to pronounce those other two courses. Frioul and Kalonicus. I don't know how to pronounce that. I beg your pardon.
I'd say.
Do you know how to pronounce those?
Not really.
And kites are the fastest Olympic sport. Yeah, I think they're going to get replaced next time, John Emmett. And by the way, a lot of the GovCup kids do too. They're going to get replaced pretty quickly, if not in 2028, but certainly in 2032, by the wing foils, which is the stuff we're seeing out here, where you hold the wing in your hands rather than up at the end of strings, which is expensive, dangerous, and so on. But the wing foils have taken over here in front of your club. Our club, St. Francis. And it's amazing how it's just like somebody flipped the switch, and we've gone from kite foiling being the big deal here on the bay, which was one of the first places, and now to wing foiling. So we'll see. The other thing that could happen, I know John Sangmeister, our Fozy, Julia, down in Long Beach, and part of the group that's going to host the Olympics in Long Beach, they're pushing hard for a keel boat, some kind of they almost had that long distance keel boat event in Marseille, and then that got blocked. And they're pushing hard for such an event, and maybe with match racing in the keel boats as well. Once you've got the equipment and you're supplying the equipment, you can do a distance
John
race.
in Marseille?
No, John's down there. He's not in Marseille, but he's part of the group that's going to help host 2028.
I know, but
he's not in Marseille that I know of, no.
He ought to be.
That would be like replacing the Ilka with an Opti, because there are so many more of them. Yeah, okay, John Emmett, I hear you. Anybody that thinks they're going to replace the Ilka, A, has got a screw loose, and B, is cretonic. Clark agrees. He thinks the kites are one and done. Clark also thinks that event security will never allow offshore racing in the Olympics. That was the big criticism, or one of the big criticisms before. Plus the light air in Marseille. There's a lot more breeze down in SoCal this time of year, so we shall see. Team racing, Alan Long, I think team racing is as great as it is. It's just hard to understand. I was talking with a lot of the umpires at down at GovCup, and they're all umpiring team racing as well, and they love team racing, especially 2x2. This 2x2 team racing is I think now more popular than 3x3. That is 3 on each team, or let alone 4x4. It's just easier to understand. It's a little strange because 2x2, whoever finishes last loses the match. Because first, if you finish first and fourth, that's worth 5 points. If you finish second and third, that's worth 5 points, but you get a bonus, a quarter point, for finishing first. So first and fourth, sorry. It doesn't, first and fourth, it's just simply if you finish fourth, you lose. So you can finish first and fourth, get the same number of points as second and third, but whoever finishes fourth loses the match. So I don't know if team racing will ever make it in the Olympics. It's difficult to explain. It looks like, it's kind of an ant farm. It looks a little hard to explain, hard to understand. Kites locked in for 2028, I believe John Emmett is saying. Well, we'll see. maybe some type of J-boat, meaning not the big J-boats of the 1930s, Clay Embley is saying, but maybe the J-boats like a J-70 or something. Who knows? Who knows? But back to the venue in Marseille, it's been light, as I said at the top of the show, and shifterly. Helen Long says, sorry I brought it up. No, it's good to talk about it. There is the typical race committee boat. It's a catamaran, very stable. They've got the big clocks up front. Nice looking boats. Nice looking branding, I guess. Everybody's branding is a little different. These photos, courtesy of Robert Deves, one of our favorite British photographers. He is there just briefly, I saw, and he, of course, he's the class manager for the fins and the OK dinghies, the 5.5, I'm not sure which, but giving us an idea of what the various official boats, that is OBS, the Olympic Broadcast Service. And that eyeball camera up on the bow of a very stable catamaran, similar to what's been used in our sport now, America's Cup and beyond. There is a jury boat, an umpire boat, called jury on the flags, because that's what all the other sports call their officials, the jury. And that, of course, is the racing this week in the 49er, I guess those are 49ers, not the FXs. And here, I'm going to play this video again. I played it, I believe I played this last Tuesday show and I had Christine Gribben on as a guest. And it explains the IQ foil, which is also being raced right now in Marseille.
The IQ foil is the new windsurfing class that will be making its debut at the Paris Olympics. Israel's Sharon Cantor and Luc van Opsieland from the Netherlands tell us all about the successor to the RSX.
IQ foil is a windsurf class for the Olympic Games, and this time we're going to foil.
It's the follow-up of the previous RSX class. It's a little bit more extreme, it's a little bit more exciting. It's a step into the future, into the right direction. We're having a board, obviously, that keeps us afloat. Underneath that we have a foil that allows us to fly. And you'll see us race most of the time around 50 to 60 kilometers an hour.
You cannot find this speed in sailing. It's crazy. You can just be so fast by control, and it can be so cool. The difference between boys and girls in the Olympic class, the board is the same, the foil is the same, but the sail, the men's is 9 meters and the women's is 8 meters.
Our sails are actually quite diverse. We're able to pull them tighter, make the sails a little bit flatter, allowing them to release the pressure a little bit better when the wind picks up. And this allows us to range in a very broad range of wind.
In our class, you need to be pretty physical and fit. We need to pump a lot, and it's a pretty hard class.
We're doing up to 6 races a day, with sometimes a marathon in there. So yeah, imagine you're doing a little sprint yourself for a solid 15 minutes, and then you got to do it 6 times a day for 5 days in a row. It is quite demanding, and we train really hard for this. The conditions in Marseille during the Olympics is going to be very black and white, in my opinion. I think we're either going to have a beautiful mistral and 20 knots, or we're going to have some marginal sea breeze, 5 to 9 knots, I assume. We do a very interesting final series, winner takes all. So it really comes down to that one moment, and the one that is going to be able to keep his head the coolest and perform its best under pressure is going to bring the medal home. Who am I looking at that could be winning a medal? My training partner, Nico Lorena, up there, 100%. Nico Goyard, fighting for a medal. Myself, I'm going to fight for a medal.
On the podium in Marseille, it can be Emma Wilson from Great Britain, also Sarah Winnekes from the Netherlands, and I think also Mina Mobek from Norway, and I hope that I will be also.
Yeah, I think that's a terrific video, and they've got the kids, the top sailors, riders,
right?
Riders, not sailors.
Mm-hmm.
They're riders, and yeah, they're pumping like crazy, and it's really tough on their shoulder and elbow joints. But you know that's why we have their feet, Dr. Rob Bray around to take care of them down the road, I guess. Yeah, I agree with Ed Worley. Speed does not necessarily make sailing better. Steve Atkins not wild about the pumping, but John Emmett, you're right. It does definitely make They're faster. It's a step forward performance. And remember, World Sailing replaced 5 of the 10 classes, and everything's foiling. In fact, I heard this morning, talking with John, that in the NACRA 17s, which have yet to start racing, but in the practice sailing that's been going on, they are now foiling upwind in the NACRA 17s. The sailors are getting so good at it, and in 10 knots of breeze. It used to be 11, 12, 13. They foil downwind, but sailing upwind and foiling. It's sort of what Jimmy Spithill figured out how to do here in 2013 in the Big America's Cup catamaran. In the AC 72s, I guess they were. Okay, well, if you're not into the Olympics, John Rogers is telling us you can go to YouTube and watch the Sabot Nationals, which is the West Coast version of the Optimus that you sailed up and down the coast here in most of the clubs, although, at least in SoCal, although they've now got Optimus at Balboa Yacht Club. The Kiwi lady who is running that program has completely revolutionized junior sailing at Balboa Yacht Club by bringing in Optimus, which of course are used pretty much everywhere else in the world.
Right.
Been using Sabots with the sideboard, the lee board, in SoCal forever. And of course they use Del Toros up here on the bay. Now we've got Optis up here on the bay. So to each their own. It takes a long time to make a change. Yeah, a small change in the class rules made a big difference. John Emmett is saying about how those NACRA 17s are now foiling upwind. So yeah, Ed Worley, so the riders are driving the boat. And Lance Burke, lots of good comments. Great video, that sport. I agree, Alistair. I think that's a great video. And Blake Middleton agrees as well. In my next life, Gordon Smith says, I will be on one of those. On one of those. Good luck to you, Gordon. Nice video. Now, here are the results to date in the men's IQ foil. I'm sorry it's a little small, but I tell you what, trying to find results was not easy, and I finally did find them on, I think this came from the NBC page, but Luc van Opsieland from the Netherlands was in that video, and he is firmly, well, not too firmly, but he is on top, 19 points ahead of the Polish Pool Tarnowski in second. Pavel, I think you pronounce that with a W. Pavel Tarnowski from Poland. These are the regular names you've seen at the top. The American Noah Lyons, it's nice to see him in the hunt. He's been coming on for the last year and maybe, just maybe, has a medal chance. He's not somebody we were counting on going into the games, but the U.S. is not doing particularly well in the other events. But our big medal hope, Julia, as you know, is our Bay Area local. She's from over in the East Bay.
Yes.
And we hope she in the kite.
Yeah.
Remember her name?
Yes.
She's from your club.
I know. I just saw it today too. Cat. Brain fade.
Okay, we'll come back to it in a minute. Okay, we'll go back to the results. There's the World Sailing Results page. Thank you, Clark. The kites have a hard format. I think Ellie will medal. Barrows and Henkin are in 5th overall in the men's skiff. Yes, Chris, actually, that is true. And we're going to come to that in a minute. But here is, once again, the results in the men's windsurf for the IQ foil. They started out slow. They had canceled races, light air, and so on. But Van Opsieland, what a great name, Van Opsieland. I wanted in my next life, I want to change my name to Van Opsieland.
Nice.
From the Netherlands, is leading and was the favorite going into the Olympics in the men's IQ foil. The other thing, I wish the IQ foil people, small I and capital letters in the rest of their name. I mean, bloody hell. Here is the women's windsurfer discipline. Emma Watson from Great Britain running away with it. 1-2, 1-1. She threw out a 17th. 1-1. She has 25 points fully, well, 5 points already ahead of Sharon Cantor from Israel. So Emma is most likely to win, as John Emmett is saying. And down the list of rest of the usuals, I don't see anything really too strange there. Emma Wilson from Great Britain is leading and expected to win that event. That is the IQ foil, the women's windsurfer. But again, a hard race format. Yeah, because they get to the final. It's when they do a lot of these preliminary races. Then they cut from whatever this is, a fleet of 20 something. They cut down to 10. They do some more. And then they cut to, is it 4, John Emmett? They cut to 4. John will tell us more on Friday. They cut to 4. And it's not like the other medal races that's a double count plus your other scores. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 like Sail GP for the gold medal, silver, bronze, and sorry, you get a certificate for 4th. Claire, Vice Commodore Claire Harrington, Lynn Lynch, IRO, International Race Officer, New York Yacht Club Sailing Director, is the race officer on the IQ foil course. Good, thank you for that. Thank you very much indeed. Vice Commodore Harrington. So this is the next group that's racing currently. That's the skiffs, men's 49er, and the women sailing the 49er FX, or just FX for short. And here is that class's video by World Sailing.
The men's and women's skiff events will use the 49er and 49er FX at the Paris Olympics. France's Erwin Fischer and Clément Pékin, and Dutch duo Odile van Arnholt and Annette Duets give us the lowdown on the boats they'll be racing this summer.
The 49er is a double-ended men's skiff at Paris 2024.
The 49er FX is the women's skiff. The 49er FX and the 49er class are pretty similar. We sail the exact same hull, but because the men are heavier and taller, they have a longer mast and bigger sail area. The boat has 3 sails. We use the mainsail and the jib always, and we use the colorful gennaker to sail in the downwinds.
While I'm sailing, I'm looking about the wind shift. We speak together to take some decision where we tack, where we jibe.
We can trim our boat for any wind there is. When there are light winds, we try to make the sails as powerful as possible so we can hike into it and have pressure. And when it gets very windy, we want to decrease that power, have flat sails so we can keep going fast.
The 49er is very tiring, so we need to have a good physical preparation.
If there's not so much breeze, we do a lot of leg bending and we need to have really strong legs. And if it's windy, we need to have really strong arms to pull ourselves in the boat from the trapeze. We use trapeze harnesses, which allow us to stand farther outside of the boat and make the boat go really fast.
Paris 2024, we will have 19 boats on the starting line, and we will have 4 days of racing on fleet.
And on the 5th day, we have the medal race with the top 10 competitors to decide who wins the medals. In Marseille, there are lots of mountains and islands around, so the wind's very funky.
Sometimes we have some sea breeze, very light and choppy conditions. We can also have some mistral, strong wind with a big wave. So we can have, like the forecast, around 20 to 30 knots, maybe more.
We have a really good fleet, so there are a lot of medal contenders. But among them are Sweden, Brazil, USA, Norway, Poland, Spain, Italy. And us, hopefully.
I think maybe 8 boats can got a medal. Bart Lambrix and Floris van der Werkel, who are very good. They won 3 times the world championships. And we have a Spanish boat, Kiwis, Croatian guys. We have a lot of boats can manage to get a medal.
Okay, another good one, another good video. So here are a couple shots. The Kiwis were leading early on. Isaac McCarty and William McKenzie sound more Scottish than Kiwi, but they were leading after day one, but they slipped today. I watched that race today, and they had a tough day, way down, probably the throwout. But we shall see as the French ladies, Sarah, you pronounce that, Steyart, and Charlene Picon are doing very well, and the women and continue to. But the big news after today's racing on the World Sailing website, Olympic Sailing 2024 Spanish surge puts Botín and Trittle on top in the men's skiff. They came strong today, winning that race, passing the Brits. Did the Brits finally win that race? I can't remember now if I think the Brits actually won that race, but it came down to the Brits and the Spanish, and I think the Brits pipped them right at the finish line. And the Americans were good early on, led for a while, and then faded. But the racing was good. The vision was good, meaning the television pictures. Poor old Gary Jobson. There's been a lot of criticism of his commentary, but again, the guy is sitting in a sound booth in Connecticut.
Yeah, how
like
sad.
Like us sitting here and doing commentary on yacht racing, watching it here on a screen, and trying then. He's not even. They don't never once showed him on the screen, and but he's trying to watch it from what 8,000-10,000 miles away, however far that is, and excuse me. Excuse me, Gary's sitting there by himself. He doesn't have, Julia, you should have flown to Connecticut, sat in the booth with him, and given him somebody to talk with, to give him a foil, and just a second person. I mean, at GovCup, you've got Andy, Matt Whitfield, we got Tommy Spithill, and I'm kind of like the studio host. I'm just getting us on and off and bringing us back to reality every now and then, talking about the cruise, and I'm kind of doing the 30,000 feet overlook. And then let's say, okay, let's go back to the racing. We'll go up to Tommy Spithill on the roving boat. And, there's four of us. And, okay, we're talking for 5 or 6 hours. So it helps to have four of us doing the commentary. And Gary's in his pajamas. It feels like he's in his pajamas. He's tired. He's by himself. He's a bit monotone.
Yeah.
But the poor guy, he's by himself in a sound booth in Connecticut because they're trying to save money. But the vision is good. The graphics and the GPS didn't always catch up with you. We could all, as sailors, could tell who was ahead and who was behind.
Yeah.
Gary's could also, he's trying to say, well, the graphics aren't quite right and yada, yada. And he was pretty much spot on, not always. But, none of us can sit there for however long he's sitting there, an hour plus. And maybe longer, I don't know.
Probably longer.
And makes sense, he doesn't have a script. He has an intro script and an outro script.
Right.
Bloody hell. I mean, television in this country.
We can send him a sympathy card.
I will. Had a nice sleep. Is much happening. Pedro Foiling Sailor checking in from Sydney. We're at 7:30 in the morning. Welcome. Good morning, Peter. So that's what's going on in the men's skiff. Also from World Sailing, the third day, today, a 49er racing at Paris 2024 brought a big shift in the standings. Also, there was a bit of a shift on the course as Diego Botín and Florian Trittle mastered the win to take the lead in the men's skiff. Now, do you remember those two names, Julia?
Diego Botín, yeah.
Sail GP. He won Sail GP here.
I was champion.
You called it, in fact. You were the only, push your mic up off your scarf. Now I remember why we switched you off that mic.
Yeah.
Thank you. So yeah, I predicted here when we had him in, I said, he's going to the Olympics now. And I'll tell you what, from when I was sailing actively, regularly, jumping from class to class, event to event, when I was hot, I was hot. And when you were cold, you were probably going to stay cold.
Yeah.
But he's hot.
He is, and he was really good both bases.
And as Chris actually says, those Spaniards do love a breeze. Now, there wasn't much breeze today, and it got a little soft at the end. Clayton Embley is saying, to tell the viewer what is going on, you need to be present. You need to be able to feel the vibe. Completely and utterly agree, Clayton Embley. Yep. And that's, Julie, as you know, that's why we're out not only, we're not sitting in the yacht club getting the signal in from the race course doing the commentary. Right. We're out on that adios with that 50-footer, give or take,
Yeah.
powerboat belonging to Chris Bretschker's
And
parents. And,
you have a boat on
well, you got Tommy Spithill in the rowing boat.
the rowing boat.
Exactly. So we're out on the water, as well we should be. And as all commentators in our beloved sport really should be.
We could start a petition.
Well, a lot of good that'll do. That'll be about as...
They say, super, you pay for it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Well, it is. It comes down, and we'll see what the viewership numbers are. Here are the standings. Diego Botín now on top by some 11 points after 2 days racing. Robert Dixon from Ireland. The Irish are having a pretty good Olympics here, it looks like.
Yeah.
And then the aforementioned Kiwis, Isaac McCarty and William McKenzie in third. They were leading after day one. And Ian Barrows and Hans Henken, who are here from the Bay Area, ostensibly from Richmond, Julia, in the North Bay, are in fifth. But don't count out James Peters. He's hot with Finn Sterrett from Great Britain. We shall see how the rest of that goes. But maybe another medal hope in Ian Barrows, but somehow I doubt it. It looks to me like Diego Botín, and maybe those top three are the class of the 49er fleet. The men's skiff, Botín and Trittle from Spain in the lead. Here's the women's in the FX, and Odile Van Aanholt, I guess the daughter, not the granddaughter, I guess the daughter of Cor Van Aanholt, against whom I used to race in the Sunfish class. He lived in the Netherlands and Netherlands Antilles, and that family's representing the Netherlands. She and Annette Deutz have dominated that class and continue to do so. Sarah Stayard, as we mentioned, and Charlene Picon from France, also looking good. And the Swedes, Velma Bobeck and Rebecca Netzler from Sweden, also in the hunt. We shall see if anybody else rises to the top. We are watching Olivia Price, Olivia the Divya in sixth.
Oh, yeah.
And Evie Hazeldine, you see there in sixth place. They are Fosey. They've been on this show. Or did we ever have Evie Hazeldine? Are we sure? For sure, any number of times have had
I think once.
Olivia on here. I think maybe once too. I can't remember. The two of them came on when they were introducing their campaign. Chris Exley, see ya. He's got to run, everyone. We'll be back on Friday with a show. But here they are, in fact, a photo of them by Sailing Energy. I just love this photo. This is Olivia and Evie representing Australia in sixth place, and we'll see how they do. They were in fifth. They've dropped to sixth, but they're still in the hunt. And there is a real crouton who's just back, looking a bit tired, a bit worn out, in his prized Price Hazeldine t-shirt, which was given to me at the GovCup. One of the Aussie crews brought it. Thank you, Christian Price, Davy Price. And the hat, I don't know if you can see the hat, Paris 24. And I love that. And it's got an Aussie logo on it next to it. And I love that t-shirt and hat. T-shirt, I think.
The back of the t-shirt's good too, though.
Yeah, it's got the boxing kangaroo. I didn't stick that shot on here, but enough of all that. So the Olympics are underway in Marseille. If there's any other comments, Julia?
I just thought, in case you missed it, that the non-sailing CEO is enjoying the sailing match in Paris.
Well, who knows?
Wait,
in Marseille.
No, in Paris.
Oh, the water-based events in Paris. I hear that USA, that's what Gordon Smith said, right? Gordon Smith, that comment up there, whatever. The non-sailing CEO has got to go. That's the only thing I know about him. And I hope we win a medal. I hope, Julie, we were talking about our best medal hope is Daniela Moros.
Yes.
Here from East Lafayette in the East Bay here. I'm a St. Francis member. And she's, what, 4 or 5, maybe 6-time world champion in the kiting, in the women's kiting discipline. Still our best Olympic hope. And we'll see if she can pull it off, because she's then started to struggle. The French ladies came good.
Yeah.
And maybe it'll be a silver, not a gold. I certainly hope she'll win a gold. Everybody at St. Francis Yacht Club,
Absolutely.
and probably in the States, is cheering for her, and hopefully we get at least
Well,
one medal.
Yeah, I mean, she's done a spectacular job of all her. I mean, she's what, 6 times or 5
I think
times
5 or 6
world champion,
and she won the coaches regatta, which was a coaches organized training event just before the Olympics. John Emmett will know about that, so we shall see. We shall see. Love that shirt, Alistair Murray is saying. Well, you would. You're biased, Mr. President of the Australian Sailing Australia, it's now called. It's sort of what Alistair Murray said yesterday at an equestrian event in Versailles. He enjoyed it, but didn't understand what was happening, the judging, etc. Yeah. Ding, ding, ding. The non-sailing CEO's got to go.
Oh, yeah. Where's my drink?
Okay.
Yeah.
Julie, do you know what happened on this day in history? Oh, that's loud. On the 30th of July, 2018. And it says water connected.
2018?
2018, recent.
Wow.
Yeah, Blake Middleton saying yes, she is also that Daniela Moreau's also multiple Rolex Yachts Woman of the Year here in the U.S. Julia, what happened on this day in history in 2018, the 30th of July? This is pretty arcane, but at least is water related.
2018.
Yeah, Peacock does have a kite promo with Daniela. I saw that, and she, of course, was also in that group that promoted the U.S. I think we played that video. The U.S. Uniforms.
Mm-hmm.
The Ralph Lauren polo uniforms,
yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
What happened on this day? Here's your first clue.
Well,
2018.
I hope it wasn't the Malaysia flight that crashed.
No, it got crashed in 2014, I think. Related. That is the 777 that vanished, which had great safety record.
Oh, yeah.
That vanished on the 8th of March, 2014. But what happened on the 30th of July, 2018? Trump's 30th birthday again? They found the plug to the Panama Canal? No. Mm-hmm. Okay, I've got you all in suspense. The disappearance of the Malaysia Airlines flight MH370 on the 8th of March, 2014, 239 people on board remains one of the most enduring and fascinating mysteries in aviation history. The aircraft disappeared over the South China Sea, you think? Mm-hmm. Some 38 minutes after it disappeared from radar, I guess, and from the other avionics, the other systems that track planes. 38 minutes after takeoff, investigators were able to track pings with a satellite to a general crashing site in the Indian Ocean, they think. The search for the plane became the most costly in history of aviation and one of the most complex. It would continue for 3 years, but turned up no sign of the plane. A few bits and pieces, some debris from the aircraft washed ashore from the Indian Ocean during 2015, 2016. I mean, way over on the coast of Africa and different places. Mm-hmm. Many theories have been proposed for the plane's disappearance, as I'm sure you all know, including many conspiracy theories.
Of course.
These include a hypoxia event, fire, being shot down, or hijacked. No one conspiracy has achieved any consensus among investigators. Indeed, no cause has gained that much traction or much traction at all. But what happened on this date, July the 30th, 2018, was that the Malaysian investigation, they simply threw their hands in the air. Mm-hmm. They announced at a press conference that they first said was their final report, and then there was such a hue and cry out against it. They said, well, maybe it's not our final report, the poor bereaving families. But they said, we don't know what happened, and we're not sure we can ever know what happened. They issued first a final, then they said it was non-final, a non-final, non-report. Mm-hmm. And of course, they didn't cooperate with any of the other aviation investigative authorities from other countries, big, whether it be China or the U.S. or Australia even. They did a little bit with Australia, who spent a lot of money themselves out there in WA and Perth, trying, flying out, Australian Air Force, reconnaissance. Sorry, peeps, have to go keep safe. Gordon Smith Alan Long, stuff happens. Yeah, they found a flaperon, aileron, which is part of the wing, of course, an aileron, the flaperon that I think flaps up when it's a speed brake when you land, right?
Mm-hmm.
That happened today, this day in history, the 30th of July, 2018. Seems like a long time ago.
It does.
Well, it was a long time ago, Julia.
No.
When you get to be our age, I'm just happy when we wake up in the morning.
Yes.
I woke up this morning, by the way.
Congratulations.
And was happy about it.
Yes.
Non-sailing, non-report CEO. That's good, Blake. That's really good. How about the America's Cup? A little bit of America's Cup news. I'll put this on my Facebook page so you can read the fine print. But we now, and I did, Stingray, I saw that the sailing instructions for the events they are out. But I haven't read them. I didn't have time to see them this morning. But the preliminary regatta schedule is out. Starts in 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Practice day on the 21st of August, Agosto in Espanol, Agost if you're speaking, not Cantonese, if you're speaking Catalan. And on day one, it's the Swiss against the French. Then it's the Kiwis against the Italians, then it's the Brits against the Americans, and then it's the Italians against the French on day one. So you do have to race 2 races on some days. Some days you're only racing 1. It's the next day is the Americans' chance to race 2 races. They're racing the Swiss and the Brits against the Kiwis. You say the Kiwis. Well, this is not the Defender or Challenger Selection Series. This is the preliminary regatta during which all teams race. Then the Americans against the Itals, and then the Swiss against the Brits, and so on. Race day 3, race day 4, and that's interesting because they wrap up the rounds robin, and then the top 2 teams with the top scoring records and who beat who, if there's a tie, who beat who in the last match between the tied teams, move on. 2 teams move on to a final winner-take-all, A versus B, on day 4 on the 25th of August. Less than a month from now.
I was going to say it's in a minute.
The French and Italian flags are hard to tell apart. Well, not really. It's just I had to remember which flags were which. So we shall see. We shall see. I'll put that on my Facebook page.
Yeah, I haven't seen it before.
No, it just came out. And thanks to several of you who sent it to me. Okay, now the LVC, the Louis Vuitton Cup, Vuitton, as you say in French, Challenger Selection Series, the CSS, the Challenger Series, the double round robin, starting, if you can read the fine print, on the 29th of August. So just in a month's time, the rounds robin start, and we won't go into the detail there. Again, I'll post them on my Facebook page and the SI Facebook page. We have those rounds robin, and no Kiwis racing in the Challenger Selection Series. The rounds robin continuing through the 4th of September. And that's not very long. There will be some teams eliminated. One of the teams with the top 4 then matriculate, as I teased Andy Rose, will move ahead, a good Stanford word, to the semifinals. The 4 semifinalists racing the 14th to the 19th of September. And then the 2 finalists will advance and race the 26th through the 7th of October. First teams to win 7 points in the finals. First teams to score 5 points in the semis. So do those preliminary races matter in the Challenger Selection Series? Not really. There's some seeding, I think, that takes place, but not a big deal. Ed Worley and Alan Long, we shall see. And then, of course, the match starts. What date does the America's Cup match start? One of the Fozy will know. I didn't put that in here. Now, Ben Ainslie's been in the news. First, he and his bride were at Wimbledon, nicely dressed, and he's a major celeb in England as the winningest Olympian in our sport of all time. One of the winningest Olympians of all time.
Right.
And yeah, thank you, Claire Harrington, Vice Commander Harrington, saying the match starts October 12th. a week after the end of the LVC. And Ben also is in the news because he's been doing podcasts, and he's talking here, strangely, he's going on at length just on the Inside Tack, which is their podcast for the team and for their women's and youth teams, talking about Lowell North, of all people. I don't quite know why he's doing a podcast about Lowell North, but he is. And then also some news that one of the Fosey sent to us, the fact that was sent to me by Ted Ryman this morning. Thank you, Ted. This in the Daily Mail, a big headline on Saturday, Sir Ben Ainslie and his wife bet the house on the America's Cup. Well, I had to read that. Apparently, they're selling their mansion on the Isle of Wight. They have this big, beautiful, multi-bedroom home. I don't know if you can see the fine print in that.
Yes.
But it's a big house, a bunch of bathrooms on I think a 30-acre setting, and they're selling it. And there's speculation that they need the money to help fund their teams. And I don't know if that's the case. You know, it's the usual, well, we're not spending any time in the house, and maybe they must have a place up in London as well. I don't know, because she's a television presenter, I believe, based in London. So maybe they just don't need the house on the Isle of Wight. Maybe they don't think they're going to be winning the cup and taking it back to the Isle of Wight. Who knows, Julia?
Who knows?
Who knows?
Maybe they're just being smart because they probably don't need three houses.
Well, that could be. If Team Britannia gets the challenge for the AC, will you Americans be supporting him? Graham Sweeney asks. I, for one, will be. You bet. Clark Chapin, betting one of their homes is not the same as betting the house.
Thank you, Clark.
So I don't really know what that's about, but that did make a big headline in the Daily Mail. I believe that was on Saturday, wasn't it?
Yeah, Saturday the 27th.
Okay. And thank you to Alex Hayworth, who I hear a lot of things from, but rarely actually do post stuff from him because it's usually kind of insider info. The more you own, the more it owns you. Sell it, Clayton Embley is saying.
Yeah.
We shall see. We shall see. Finally, in our America's Cup, we want to say again, how's your book report coming, Julia?
Slowly.
You ready?
No.
To give a little book report?
No.
Okay. When we get to the America's Cup, we got to have a book report. So you got a few more weeks.
I got to finish my text.
You finish it. But we do want to thank again Magnus the Magnificent, who, by the way, got... I think I can now say he got hired to go down to Paris to do some writing.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, so he was down there, maybe still there. And I think I can now say that I was embargoed from telling anybody that.
The sailing.
I don't know. He could have been in Paris covering, or maybe the Open. I don't know what he was doing. But he told me he was going down there, been hired by the organizers. And I know a spousal of another Fosey who's down there doing television. Not in our sport, but in another sport.
Oh, yes, indeed.
You know who that is.
I do.
I think I told you. You know everything, Julia.
No, I don't.
You know everything. I think she's got up in her apartment upstairs. I think before I moved in here nearly 9 years ago, I think she installed microphones and maybe little cameras. I should go around and check.
Be careful.
Maybe that's what these lights are. Maybe that's why you were upset when I replaced some of those lights.
Yes.
Had your cameras in them. You have any in the bathroom or the bedroom?
Of course.
Magnus will be at a wine tasting, LOL. Yeah, okay. British media is even more crotonic than the U.S. news. Well, you got Fleet Street there. Fabulous book. I commend it to you. I've read most of it.
I've read most of it.
You have?
But I haven't read all of it.
We need your book report.
I know.
It'll be more interesting coming from you than I, because I'll concentrate.
Not so.
It'll be more interesting coming from you than
It'd be more interesting
me.
to hear your questions.
Well, I'll ask questions. We will be inquisitive. Julia, the Olympics are underway. That's our cover photo. The Olympics are underway in Marseille, which gets us to the last leg. We're an hour and 50 minutes into this show.
Wow.
But we haven't said anything about the other major event that took place that is done and dusted that we did talk about in Newport, Rhode Island, and I thought we should cover it now. And that is the TP52 Worlds. A little bit longer video than normal, but it's such a fabulous video. I hope you agree. It's well worth watching now.
The 2024 Rolex TP52 World Championship saw 10 top-level, evenly matched TP52 teams muster in Newport, Rhode Island. It's the third regatta of the 52 Super Series 2024 season and comes hard on the heels of the XS 52 Super Series Newport Trophy Regatta, but this is the World Championship and everyone wants to win. And following the recent victory of Thailand's underdogs Vayu, the feeling more than ever is that any team, any one of the 10 could win. The defending champions are Germany's Platoon Aviation, but they have opened their season with a brand new boat with 2 disappointing 7th places so far. But their hopes are rising.
We won 3 World Championships in this class, and for me as an amateur driver, it's quite a big achievement. We made some adjustments and some changes in the boat, and we're looking forward to the week.
Quantum Racing, powered by American Magic, may have struggled to close out regatta wins this season so far, but they're 7 times world champions, as Greg Gundell has been with them every time.
Yeah, 752 Worlds, so something I'm proud of. The first one in Lanzarote was obviously a big one with Terry, and then each one was special. The one in 2022 with Doug was really good. So each one's a little bit special.
But so too Sled are the past Rolex TP52 World Champions from 2021.
We know what this fleet's like, and it is incredibly easy in this fleet to be 8th, 9th, 10th after a poor start and 2 wrong shifts. And we just see how we go.
Everyone is excited about being back in Newport. It's such a popular and historic sailing centre and hosted by the beautiful New York Yacht Club out of Harbour Court. And the town itself is excited and knowledgeable.
Phenomenal. I mean, Newport's putting on a great show, beautiful part of the world. It just highlights why Newport's been so popular over the decades of sailing through all the history of the America's capital now.
The Rolex TP52 World Championship and Newport itself and the waters off Newport are a great venue for VIP guests from XS, and they enjoy sailing on the 12 metres. And in the evening, Rolex take the chance to host the teams at beautiful Harbour Court, the Newport residence for the New York Yacht Club. All the time we're looking for more sustainable solutions both on land and on the water. We're using mark set bots now, which are robotic marks, which means we don't have to use anchors on the seabed, nor do we have to use as many ribs. And on land we're using blue water filtration systems to provide drinking water to keep the teams hydrated. Team Vayu arrive buoyed up by the recent dream win, but in the full realisation they have no expectation that they simply will carry on from where they left off. But nonetheless, they've clearly made big improvements.
You know, it's always high pressure. It doesn't matter whether they've won or lost. I kind of rolled in really excited to see if there were any dynamic changes, and I think that probably the key change is anything's possible.
But in fact, on day one, Vayu do carry on from where they left off. They win the first race, they work the left side again, and 12 to 14 knots of breeze, they take first blood. But it's the 2021 champions Sled who are most consistent on day one, taking 2 second places, and they lead after day one. The second day, the breeze is lighter and Tony Langley's team throw down the gauntlet with 2 race wins back-to-back. Gladiator go 3 in a row and lead the World Championship. Thursday requires patience as the breeze only comes in late afternoon, and it's a race win for 2023 World Champions Platoon Aviation. Takashi Akura's Sled then strengthened their challenge on the next day, keeping all the pressure on Gladiator, winning the first race of the day and then taking a second as Tina Plattner's Phoenix win the second race. So Gladiator lead into the last day of the championship. It's all new territory for the British team with only a single point in hand. There's no room for errors.
We are excited because it's last day of the World Championship, being in a good position, but we have not to be too much excited. To go there and sail well.
I'll just go out and do the same as every day. Just keep the same routine, the same process. What'll be will be.
There's up 30 points up for grabs potentially, so there can be some big movers and some big losers.
So Gladiator go into the final day with a lead of 1 point, but in the first race they get a second place, finishing just behind Alpha Plus, who win their first race of the regatta. Second race is Quantum Racing powered by American Magic coming through the finish line, but Gladiator just behind. Give them a 7-point lead going into the final race of the World Championship. And the final race is another win, in fact, for Alpha Plus for the team from Hong Kong. But Gladiator come through in 10th, chasing Sled across the line. That's all they need to do. The Rolex TP52 World Championship title goes to Gladiator.
We've come a long way in the last 2 seasons, the last 1.5 seasons. Yeah, but before that it was a long road. It makes it all worthwhile, yeah. Particularly sweet is a World Championship win, and right here in Newport as well.
It means a lot to us because it's the first one with this team. It's the first event win for the team also, so it was very nice to pick it up at the right time with the World Championship title.
So after all 10 races are sailed at the Rolex TP52 World Championship here in Newport, top of the table, the world champions are Gladiator on 40 points, second are Sled on 46 points, and third, Platoon Aviation on 48 points.
Amazing World Championship, certainly one of the best 52 worlds I've ever sailed. Really proud of the sled team and what we've achieved. And congratulations to Gladiator, who just sailed a superb regatta.
We still don't sail a perfect day. It's always one good, one bad, one good, one bad. Still learning the boat a little bit, but I think we're going in the right direction.
So after the Rolex TP52 World Championship, after 3 regattas this season, Gladiator lead on 112 points. Second, Quantum Racing powered by American Magic on 115. And third, Sled on 121. Well, that's it from the USA, wonderful Rhode Island and specifically Newport. We've had 2 great regattas here in June, and also now the Rolex TP52 World Championship, a full 10-race programme, a new world champion in Tony Langley's Gladiator. Now back to Europe, back to the Mediterranean. We'll see you in Puerto Portals next month.
How good is that video?
Great.
I miss Newport. I really, of all the places we've lived, I really liked Newport, Rhode Island, year-round. Even the winter when it's a little dodgy, the weather, it's cold, it's windy in the winter, which makes more the so than the cold.
Right.
But it's a yachting town. It's a yacht racing town. It's fabulous. It's just fabulous. Nice video. I agree, Ed Worley. Congratulations to the New York Yacht Club, to the TP52 class. Yes, if New York wins the Cup, if the Brits win the Cup, I really hope whoever wins the Cup, but if either of those teams do, the Yacht Squad, Royal Yacht Squadron or New York Yacht Club, I hope they'll put the Cup in TP somethings, 80s, something big, something magnificent, and who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? But what a terrific event. Bravo Zulu to them. And all of you commenting, oh, it's really yachting. That looks great. No cyclors. And every boat races every race counts, which, it makes it great. Interesting right to the bitter end. There will be at least 6 J's racing in Barcelona, J boats, meaning from the 30s, and the one new boat, Zvea. Looking forward to watching that, indeed. Alistair Murray, good night. Sleep well, where it's late over there. It's midnight in Marseille, in Barcelona as well. Go to sleep, Alistair, and we'll see you on Friday. Claire Harrington, Vice Governor Harrington, great stuff. TP52, Newport is the best. Couldn't agree more. Vice Commodore Harrington. And that gets us to Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. Just a couple of funnies here sent in by any number of you. In fact, speaking of Claire, we become musical oriented, especially musical instrument oriented. We're talking, as always, about banjos and accordions. Well, now here's another one. You know what that is, Julia? The French horn.
Well,
and the kid's scary. The kid looks scary.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what. I played the French horn for one day. The junior, that was high school, I guess, and they were looking like they were going to be short of French horn players, and I'd been playing the baritone and the tuba.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I'll try to play it and see if the mouthpiece on the French horn is about it's tiny. It's smaller than a trumpet mouthpiece. It's smaller. And the you know, the French word, speaking as I was talking about Paris and Marseille, embouchure. Your lips in that mouthpiece, it is a hard instrument to play. I was not good enough.
I too got to play it for a week.
You did?
Once. Yeah.
You did?
Yeah.
Lance Burke is saying, wash your hand after playing that thing. Well, yeah, because you put your hand in the bell. Your other hand your one hand is on the valves, of which there are 4, and the other hand's in the bell, and you actually modulate the sound a little bit with your hand, sort of like a over the trumpet or the mute over the trumpet or the trombone. Oh, good, you came up with a word.
Yeah.
That's because you sang and waved your arms around before we went. We should go live sometime 5 minutes, 10 minutes before the show and show everybody what we do to try to get our old brains
invite
engaged.
everybody to join us.
And we sing and we run our arms around and we pump our arms in the air to try to wake up.
Yeah.
Wake up, little, what was that song? Little Susie?
Susie, yeah.
So Claire Harrington sent that. This one, you kind of have to look down and cover your eyes. It's one of those things that once you've seen it, you can't unsee it, right?
You're right.
And that is a caption contest, and that was the Modern Olympics, I think, is the best caption we came up with. It says Russia across the front, but that was sent in by Mr. Dr. Andrew McIrfin.
Wow.
Ed Worley says, junk. Could have been the caption, junk. God. You can't unsee that, Julia.
I know.
I won't go back and play it again. I thought I would. This was a good one. This was a good one. For crying out loud, Jonah. 3 days late, covered with slime and smelling like fish, Jonah. And what story have I got to swallow this time?
You wouldn't believe it.
You wouldn't believe it, but I thought that was pretty. Greg Phillips sent that in from
That's a good one.
From the Gold Coast, I think Gold Coast in Australia. One hung low. Ted Ryman, that was his caption for that croutonic image. Clark Chapin, I'm sure that the U.S. House of Representatives would like them relabeled freedom horns. Oh, talking about the French horns. French horns! Come on, it's appropriate to our show today. I thought Claire was very clever in sending that in. And yes, indeed, the non-sailing CEO, wherever in France he is, whether it's in Paris, he's got to be down in Marseille cheering on the U.S. team. If he's not, I will be not surprised.
All I know is what I read.
Did you, what?
Yeah, somebody.
Did somebody say he was really up in Paris?
Yep.
What a crouton.
I don't know if he really is.
No ball games on the grass, Graham Sweeney says. Okay, that does it for us. The non-sailing CEO's got to go. Cancel him with code flag N, and the sooner the better. We'll see how the team does. I hope they win medals. I hope they do well. And nothing would make me happier. And I might even say a nice thing or two about the non-sailing CEO if he can win us a few medals or help win us. But
yes,
he's not going to, though. I don't. Or he's not responsible. If they do win some medals, it's not him. It's the Brit, who's by way of Germany, who's the new coach and the new head director of Olympic sailing. That's it. We're to the finish line. Julia, you're witness.
Yes. Oh, this is a good time to like, follow, and share.
All times are a good time. You can do it at the beginning of the show, too, if you want. And as we always say, you can comment even in
replay.
In replay.
Yeah.
You were going to say.
No, I was going to say I ended up watching some of the GovCup on YouTube because it's quite stable and easy to get to.
You know, technically it is the same. When we co-stream those shows, as with this show, because we stream this to YouTube, to the Sailing Illustrated YouTube channel, to the Sailing Illustrated Facebook page, and to the to my personal Facebook page. But as Clark Chapin says, hasn't already commented and welcomed and followed and shared. But one thing you all should know is that if you go watch it in replay on Facebook, the playback quality is, they're trying to save bandwidth, and if they think you're on a slower connection, they'll dumb it down to 720 or 580 or 560 or 480, whatever those other numbers are. You might have to go it down in the row on the bottom of Facebook, click on I think it's the cog, the wheel, and you can change it up to 1080 because we are now being saved on Facebook for replay and have been for months and months at 1080. YouTube just 1080 automatically, away you go. Great show. Thank you, Peter. Pedro Foiling Sailor. Thank you, everybody. We really thank you, Julia. And thank you to all of our FOSI who support us here via Patreon. Become a patron, patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated, and give us $1 or $2 or 10 more per month so we can have our beautiful studio, our facility here. And I'll tell you what, it is good to be home, Julia.
Oh, it is.
A lot easier to do a show here than it is at Balboa Yacht Club. Thanks to everybody who gave us audio, video, and
their presence,
images, and all of you who watched today live. We appreciate it. Blake Middleton, we appreciate you, and all the FOSI, indeed. All the FOSI around the planet. That's why we do the show, and that's what makes it fun for all of us. Reminder that on Friday, our guests live from Weymouth will be John Emmett, because we're going to talk probably just about the Olympics. He will have dialed us in. We hope to have a video from Andrew Pindar and Alistair Murray, because they're going to be together.
Oh,
they're getting together in Marseille. I heard from Andrew Pindar this morning.
Yeah.
That should be fun. In the meantime, have a great rest of your week, wherever in the world you are. And if you can, go sailing. Sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao for now.